a shared meal, something old, something new. For 5 years now, at precisely 6 p.m., the scent of chicken, sometimes fried, sometimes simmered slowly, filled the walls of their aging country kitchen. Every night, Ernest slumped into his chair with a familiar grunt, the air between them thick with things left unsaid. Chicken, potatoes, and peas. Do you cook anything else? For Christ's sake? Ernest barked, his words soaked in whiskey and frustration. Marybeth kept her back to him, hands steady as she plated the meal. It's what you like, she said evenly. And you're only complaining now because you're drunk. Eat it before it gets cold. Outside, the porch wind chimes rattled against a restless breeze. The only music left in a house that had once echoed with laughter and dreams. Ernest was a retired car repairman in Alligator, Mississippi, a small town of just 250 people, where everyone knew everyone's business. Though officially retired, he still tinkered with engines when someone in town needed work. He drinks daily, but today he's exceptionally drunk and moody. Lately, he seemed tired of everything. The town, the routines, the meals, and even, Marybeth feared, of her. She had spent 30 years teaching at the little schoolhouse before she turned to sewing and knitting to fill her days. With no children of her own, she poured her attention into crafting clothes, trading them with her friend Geraldine for poultry, potatoes, and peas at the farmer's market. And though she tried to keep things interesting by frying chicken one night, baking it the next, turning it into stew or soup, and switching mashed potatoes for home fries or baked, she knew, deep down, it was all just the same. Ernest groaned, pushing his plate away. I'm tired of chicken, day in and day out. If I see a chicken crossing the road, I swear, I'll shoot it. Marybeth's shoulders stiffened. Be grateful you've got food to eat at all. I work hard making clothes for all 9 of Geraldine's children, so we have something to put on the table. And we don't even have any children of our own to feed. If we did, her voice trailed off, heavy with everything left unsaid. Ernest's face softened, his voice lower now. I'm sorry, honey. I don't mean to snap at you. I'm just frustrated. It would be nice to have a steak once in a while, something different. You eat the same thing over and over. It loses its excitement, you know? Marybeth swallowed hard, her heart squeezing at those words. Loses its excitement. She wondered if that's how he felt about their life, about her. She started to reflect on their 20-year marriage, how much Ernest has shown he loves her, and how he's recently stopped. He used to tell her how beautiful she looked every day, even if she felt she didn't. He would rub her feet after a long day's work, even if he were tired. Now, he doesn't do any of those things anymore and wonders if she is to blame. They sit across from each other at the kitchen table, quietly eating their meal. They look out the window or down at their food, but not at each other. You hear nothing but silverware clinking against the plates, mouths smacking, and a wind chime blowing in the breeze on the small front porch. They usually enjoy dinner conversations and gossip about who Mr. Jones is having an affair with at this time. Last week, it was with Geraldine's 19-year-old daughter. Scandal never stayed secret for long in Alligator, Mississippi. Everyone seemed to know that Mrs. Jones had turned a blind eye to her husband's ways, convinced she couldn't do better and was too tired to try. But dinner fell silent that evening. After dinner, Marybeth clears the table while Ernest watches the news on television. Shortly after, she follows him to the living room to sit while she knits a baby sweater. She looks over at him and notices that he's still a little grumpy, and there's no point attempting to make conversation. However, the non-communication is killing her. Once, they filled their evenings with stories and laughter, discussing what good show might be coming on that night. Once the communication is lost, there is nothing else. Marybeth swallowed the lump in her throat. She didn't want to end up like Mrs. Jones, silent, invisible, resigned. After many attempts to have a child, the miscarriages continued to happen. He wanted a son that he could inspire to be better than him, to have a chance to explore the world outside of Alligator, Mississippi, and to be somebody. His son would be his ticket out of that small town of emptiness, a place where only dreams can go so far. She continued disappointing him, even though he assured her it wasn't her fault. He tells her it was only God's way of saying that destiny is not theirs. Even though Marybeth had unbelievable support from Ernest during many of her challenges, she believes he is depressed and miserable because of those events. But now it's too late, and she's too old to have children. Marybeth cried her whole 50th birthday 2 weeks ago when she realized she couldn't give her husband what he wanted. After closing his car repair shop for economic reasons, his income is reduced even more, and he's unable to provide as he used to. The competition from Mr. Walworth's renovated auto body shop took most of his business away. Ernest didn't have the funds for the upkeep and had no choice but to sell his shop to Walworth's niece, who turned it into an arts and crafts shop. Marybeth knew that, along with losing his shop, he lost his dignity. She understood how he might feel less of a man because he felt useless, but she knew it wasn't his fault. Ernest's drinking became heavier after he thought his dreams were shattered when his shop was taken from him and no son was given to him. He loves his wife dearly, but he's been letting his inner feelings get the best of him. And lately, he takes it out on his wife. Seeing how unhappy he is, Marybeth starts to reflect on Mr. and Mrs. Jones's relationship. She doesn't want to end up like them and have Ernest step outside of their marriage. She would die if he had an affair, and everyone in town know about it. The words, "it loses its excitement," continue to echo inside her head. It bothers her to think that she might be contributing to her husband's sadness by not bringing anything new to the table. She had to admit she was tired of eating the same meal. When Ernest first tasted her cooking when they were young, she remembers him saying that he immediately fell in love with her and knew he would marry her. He was very impressed that she was not only bright and beautiful, but also knew how to cook very well. Reflecting on this, she realized that the little things in someone's life can make all the difference. The next morning, Before the sun rose high in the sky, Marybeth made a decision. She took the emergency money she'd tucked away for years and walked the long road to town. The Fredericks Market sat at the corner of Main Street, the only supermarket for miles. Joel Frederick stood behind the butcher's counter, broad-shouldered and grown now, but still wearing that familiar boyish grin she remembered when he was her student. He was an adult now, working for his pops. "Well, I'll be darned," Joel said, surprised. "Miss Marybeth, what brings you all the way out here?" Marybeth lifted her chin. "I'm here for the biggest steak you've got, Joel." His brows lifted. "Special occasion?" She offered him a small, knowing smile. "You could say that." He throws on a stained white apron and rubber gloves. In her eyes, this was an emergency. She knew their marriage might suffer if she didn't give Ernest what he wanted. She knows that if he's not happy, he will continue to be grumpy, and it would kill her if Ernest lost any interest in her. She is tired of disappointing him. He is all she has. He is her best friend. And despite his recent grumpiness, she knows he truly loves her because he didn't leave her after she failed to bear a child. They've made it through their marriage this far, and it would not be ruined over chicken. That evening, the house smelled different. Rich buttery steak sizzled on the stove, the scent filling every corner of the home with something new, something hopeful. He comes in and sits down at the table as usual, prepared for the same meal day in and day out, while she brings over their sizzling plates. She can't wait to see how he will react. He looks up at Marybeth, and his face grows the biggest smile, which hasn't been painted on his wrinkled face in a while. Marybeth exhales and is relieved to see him smile again. This reassures her that it's the simplest things that matter. "Steak? Is this a special occasion or something?" he questions. Marybeth giggles and says, "Eat up before your food gets cold. And if you eat all of it, I have dessert waiting for you." She gives him a wink. "By the way, you looked beautiful as always," he says. And those words warm up Marybeth's heart. He continues, "I apologize for how I've been acting lately. I do see you working hard to care for everything, and I appreciate you. I will do better, start helping out a little more, and look for another job." Marybeth just smiled at him. There was no need for words. The smile was all Ernest needed to know. Everything would be okay. He even did the dishes himself that night. Ernest enjoyed his meal. He even loved the apple pie and ice cream treat. He could get used to the new meals from time to time. They sat at the kitchen table for hours after they had completed their meal and talked all night. They even brought up the new man Mrs. Jones is now seeing. Good old Joel Frederick from the supermarket. Mrs. Jones must have spent a great deal of time visiting the butcher's station. And meat wasn't the only thing on the menu. Oh, how the tables turn. One thing Marybeth realizes is that the connection that brings them together every evening is food. She even enjoyed the change in meals and promised to bring something new to the table every day from now on. Several months later, on a warm spring afternoon, Geraldine arrived at their door unannounced, her face drawn and her hands wringing the hem of her dress. Inside over cups of lukewarm coffee. Geraldine spoke the words that would change their lives. "My daughter, she's pregnant, and it's Mr. Jones's." The air grew heavy. Her daughter was ashamed that she managed to get pregnant by him, and Geraldine was very disappointed to find out. She slept with a married man, especially one known to spread himself around town. They were keeping her pregnancy a secret, and she had to lay low for a while. There was no way they would be the new talk of the town, because their household was already filled with enough children, and they refused to allow Mr. Jones to be the father. "She's ashamed," Geraldine continued quietly. "She knows what folks would say. We've kept it quiet and plan to keep it that way. But she asked me to come to you, to ask if you and Ernest might consider adopting the baby." Geraldine knew they couldn't have children. Marybeth's hands flew to her mouth as tears welled and fell freely. Her heart felt like it might burst under the weight of the moment. They both couldn't be more grateful, even though the circumstances of the reasoning are unfortunate. This news gave Ernest life, and he couldn't be more ecstatic to have something to look forward to. He knew he had to get himself in order and prepare for the baby to come. He agreed to stop drinking altogether, since it was doing him no good, but keeping him in his sorrows. Ernest put his pride to the side and gave Mr. Walworth a visit. His sporadic repair services weren't enough to maintain a decent life for his new child. So he asked Mr. Walworth for a position at the auto body shop. The business is growing because it is the only shop in town, and Mr. Walworth needs help managing the shop. He trusts Ernest to oversee the shop and offers him a management position. Ernest gladly accepts. By the time their son was born, they had the house set up with everything they needed to welcome the little baby boy. He named him Ernest Jr. They passed the adoption process, and Junior was legally theirs. Geraldine's daughter would be allowed to visit often to check on the baby. They even made her the godmother, which couldn't make her happier. Ernest brought in enough income to allow Marybeth more time to focus on their child. With this new baby, their household dynamic changed for the better. She was now knitting baby clothes for her own family. Marybeth no longer cooked from obligation, but from joy. The kitchen was once again a place of warmth and wonder, filled with the aromas of dumplings, cornbread, beef stew, mac and cheese, and sweet apple pies. At night, after Junior was tucked safely in his crib, they sat at the kitchen table. Their conversation stretched long into the evening, and the quiet between them was finally soft and peaceful. That child was their little miracle. And every so often, when the wind stirred the chimes on the porch, Marybeth would glance across the table at the man who had shared her life for over 20 years and smile, knowing they had finally found it. Something old, something new, and something beautifully their own. Good night.